On the 16th of November, 29-year-old Selena Juarez was arrested and charged with homicide after one of her twin infant girls suffocated to death after she tried breastfeeding her. At around 3:16 p.m. on the 4th of November, the authorities responded to the 1400 block of Hurlingham Way in San Jose, California, for a call of unresponsive 8-month-old twins. One of their children had stopped breathing, and when officers arrived, they immediately began performing CPR on the infant. Medics arrived soon after and took over the life-saving measures. Both infants were rushed to the regional medical centre. The following day, one of the twins was pronounced dead at the hospital while at the intensive care unit. Court documents identified the deceased twin as Melanie and the surviving twin as Ari. The authorities said that Selena, the mother of the twins, was caring for both infants at the time of the incident. During the early stages of the investigation, Selena suffered from an unknown medical emergency, and she was transported to a local hospital where she remained until the 16th of November. An arrest warrant was issued for Selena that day, charging her with murder and child endangerment, and she was taken into custody. While interviewed, Selena told detectives that she was trying to breastfeed her babies, which she had not done for a while. She admitted to detectives that she purposely held her breasts against the girls' mouths, as she was frustrated they wouldn't latch on. She said her husband left for work that day at 6:30 a.m, and she took her 2-year-old son and baby girls to church until noon. She said they all returned home, and Selena's mother took her son to run errands, leaving her with the twins who were sick and fussy that day. Her baby started crying, and even though she usually bottle feeds them, she wanted to breastfeed them that day to give them the proper nutrients. She said that she picked Melanie up and intentionally pushed the baby very hard against her right breast, not allowing her to come up for air. She told police that she felt Melanie gasping for air, and she saw her legs kicking as she kept pushing her daughter against her body. She told police that she believed she held Melanie against her breast for 10 minutes, and even when she saw her baby wasn't breathing, held her mouth against her breast for another 2 minutes before placing her unresponsive body on the bed. Selena said that she then picked up her other baby Zari to feed her, pushing her onto her left breast. She said she pushed very hard against her breast without letting her come up for air until she became unconscious. Selena said she waited for about 20 minutes before calling her mother for help. She said she and her mother performed CPR, and at that point, her brother came home and called 911. Medical staff told police that Melanie sustained respiratory failure and cardiac arrest because she hadn't been breathing for a prolonged period. They also told the authorities that the second child, Zani, was alert and responding, but had skin discoloration, but is expected to make a full recovery. Selena remains held at the Santa Clara County Jail without bail. 55-year-old Randy Peter Silge has been sentenced to life in prison this week in the fatal bashing of a man more than 2 decades ago. The attack occurred on the 28th of November 2001, when the authorities responded to 4725 Sanctuary Drive in Newport Richey, Florida, in reference to a death investigation. The victim, who was later identified as 41-year-old Simon Clark, was found dead inside a room of a house that was under construction. Simon had been beaten to death with a baseball bat and sustained injuries to his head and chest. The medical examiner said he died from multiple blunt force trauma and ruled his death a homicide. Detectives at the time conducted several interviews with potential witnesses and identified a person of interest. The murder weapon was located. However, the processing of the object did not reveal any leads. No arrests were made, and the case went cold in 2004. In the years that followed, Randy continued building a criminal history, including arrests for crimes including grand theft, burglary, and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. In 2015, he was convicted in federal court of possessing a firearm as a felon and was sentenced to 42 months in prison. While Randy sat behind bars though, Newport Richey investigators finally got the lead they needed to reopen Simon's cold case in 2016. A detective with the police department was approached by an old witness who said he'd been living with the memories of the incident since it happened and was finally willing to talk about the incident. The man told investigators that he was there when Randy began beating Simon with a baseball bat that night, and another witness corroborated the story, saying that Randy told the man that he could never testify against him because he forced the man to strike the victim with the bat as well. After hearing the new testimony and details, officers brought the case to the Pasco County State Attorney's Office. He went before a grand jury in 2018, and Randy was indicted for first-degree murder. After being found guilty of murder, On the 16th of November 2022, he was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole, ending a decades-old cold case. Simon was married with 2 sons. They were 11 and 16 at the time of his death. He had moved to the US from England and worked in property rentals. A man is behind bars after being accused of stabbing his brother during a dispute. At around 1:20 p.m. on the 17th of November, the authorities responded to a home on the 200 block of Castorf Road in Charleston, West Virginia, on a report of a stabbing. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man suffering from a large gash. The victim told deputies that he and his brother got into an argument over their cats when Joshua stabbed him in the abdomen. First responders administered first aid on him and transported him to the hospital, where he underwent surgery. He remains in a serious condition. They also found the suspect, 33-year-old Joshua Haynes, sitting in the chair with a kitchen knife nearby and blood along the kitchen floor. The mother of the brothers, who was also inside the home, told the officers that Joshua was talking out of his head, and the brothers argued about letting the cats out before the stabbing. Kanawha County Chief Deputy Joe Crawford said that the incident appears to be a domestic-type issue between family members that got out of hand. Joshua was arrested and faces a malicious wounding charge and remains held at the West Virginia Regional Jail and Correctional Facility. If found guilty, he faces up to 10 years in prison. A man has been fatally shot by an unknown suspect outside a Cleveland, Ohio shop during the week. The incident occurred at around 5:15 p.m. on Thursday the 17th of November, when the authorities responded to the intersection of Cedar Avenue and East 28th Street on reports of a person down. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man laying on the sidewalk outside a liquor store with gunshot wounds to his body. He was transported to the Metro Health Medical Center in a critical condition, where he died a short time later. The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victim as 27-year-old Dante Malone of Cleveland. Initial investigation shows that Dante was leaving the 28th Street supermarket and liquor store when he was shot multiple times. The motive in the shooting is unclear. The matter remains under investigation, and no one has been arrested to date. The authorities are investigating a shooting that left 58-year-old Alan Holloway dead on his birthday. The incident occurred at 9:16 p.m. on Friday the 18th of November, when authorities responded to the intersection of East 12th Street and Martin Luther King Drive in West Point, Georgia, in response to shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they discovered Alan unresponsive and laying on the ground with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The authorities said that he was killed during a drive-by shooting, and that the car in question is a grey four-door Honda Accord that was manufactured sometime around 2010. No arrests have been made to date. The motive in the shooting is unclear. The investigation into the matter continues.